Kalki has started a phenomena that is absolutely hard to miss. And I'm sitting here with a man, vision, and everything behind it. I mean, I know the amount of years that have gone into this. And for me as an audience to watch scene by scene, minute by minute, and absorb it was outstanding. I don't want to waste much time and jump into that scene that everybody's been talking about, is Deepika walking through the fire.
Awesome.
I want to know from you, how did that come around? Because it gave me goosebumps. It stayed with me for a very long time. It definitely moved me in a very big way. I want to understand, what was the set like that day? How did she do that?
How did she do that? I mean, that's also one of my favorite scenes. I think maybe the most favorite scene. But the way we actually shot that was so hurried. Like, we were shooting 3 setups that day, and I think Deepika had to leave by a certain flight. So it usually happens that some of the most important or the most magical things in the film happen by chance,
right,
or in a hurry, and this is what this was. And but just watching it in that hurry, in that rush and everything, when you just reach the monitor and you see Deepika walking through that particular tunnel in that fire, I just knew this was going to be special. And
was there a cue you gave her in terms of this is what you need her to do, apart from the fact that she had to obviously?
Yeah, it was a sort of a leap of faith. It was the sort of walking and surrendering to a larger power sort of situation. It was the reference of the birth of Krishna, and it was, you know, like how there was a leap of faith taken by Vasudeva. It was all of that. So, but I think Deepika is a super smart actress. Like, you just need to give her a little and she knows what the brief is. I genuinely thought that the final pose that she holds at the end of that tunnel, yes, when, you know, the interval is about to happen, felt like such a strong visual for me. I just felt that, you know, there's a chance that something like that could be a poster that would live beyond me or the film or whatever, and I just told her that, and that's one thing I think she still remembers.
You know, a lot of people on social media calling her Queen Deepika and drawing comparisons to Khaleesi, the character from Game of Thrones, because it was like a rebirth for that character. In many ways, for Deepika to walk through that fire is sort of cathartic, and it's like a rebirth. What do you make of this? I mean, there are so many analogies being drawn.
Right. I mean, like, my only inspiration was the birth of Krishna, like how the river parted for him, or like, it was that idea, and it was just like trying to play it with a different element this time and intercutting it with different characters. But I see like how you could see a comparison, though I don't think the Khaleesi walked through anything as such.
The fire element is the
fire element thing was there, so she sort of was reborn. But yeah, it's great. I love Game of Thrones, so it's nice to be compared. Nice to be compared to things like Star Wars, Game of Thrones. No complaints there.
Absolutely. I mean, why not? Yeah. And we can't speak about Kalki without talking about the legendary Mr. Amitabh Bachchan.
Of course not, yeah.
I mean, an entire generation who's watched him regaled. It was absolutely worth bang for buck. And then the current generation, right?
Yeah.
He's sort of, it's very easy to say that he keeps everybody on their toes. He can give them, you know, run for their money
and all that, yeah.
But to watch that man, irrespective of whatever age that he might have clocked, that determination, that energy, that enthusiasm, just give me a glimpse into what was it like to have him on set, and where did that come from, that energy, that enthusiasm?
He's just those years and years of experience, I think. He's seen it all, like, and we just start off with a story, like in between takes when shots would take long. He'd just start off with a story about how action was done back in the day, like, you know, they would really have to crash through glass, they would really have to crash their horse into a pit. Right. You know, things like that. They would have to know when to jump off that horse, like the number of bones they broke. And so when we were being ultra careful with our stunts, which are now thankfully a lot safer because of stuntmen and because of VFX and all of that. And he's like, you know, we've been through a lot worse, don't worry. And his experience, so he knows like what to do and what makes the actions more realistic. And you know, he doesn't have to be on a harness and jump 20 feet into the air. It's just that expression that he gives that will sell everything else. So it was a learning experience for all of us with him, for sure. And
Is he like a child on set even now to sort of ask you questions and get to know about how technology's evolved, right?
Technology for sure. He loves the tech part of it a lot. Like he'd love to know what we're doing, how the VFX, how we're going to make him 8 feet was like the biggest thing for him.
Yeah, the first time you see him, that towering figure, you're like in awe.
Yeah, he always wanted to know all of that. And I just think is like for the humongous star that he is, and you know, for the delays that we generally have on set, he was the most patient, intrusive person. He'll just patiently come sit in his massive amount of prosthetic and wig and beard and all of that and not complain.
Wow.
I think the first time I was completely taken aback and speechless was, I think, the first schedule. I think we were shooting, we were delayed or whatever, we were running, trying to catch up, and he came up to me and I was just trying to make an excuse, like, no, you know, light, whatever, coming soon, whatever I was about to say, and he's like, I just use the restroom and come. Why are you asking me, sir? You can do whatever you want. So he's just that great, like, he's cool.
Is there a particular scene or a moment that you shot with him that is your favorite, that perhaps has a story that we didn't see on screen, but it just could be a nice anecdote?
Probably, I think like the first time we had to put that gem inside his prosthetic, and it was switched on when he is leaving the cave and he says this dialogue, "Main Dronacharya ki putra Ashwadama, mera naam Ashwadama." So when he says that, it was again late at night, and it's sort of a little later than he usually goes back, and there was our tech guy who was figuring out how to switch it on with a remote and keep the gem inside, because that wasn't CG, that was a real thing. And Bachchan sir was there, and this guy was trying to put it on, and you know, somebody was trying to give him a staff, and he was just like, what is happening? He just shouted, and everyone was acting as if we didn't hear. I think it was hilarious, because his voice, like, even just for fun, he would just be like, you're fired, bolke, just shout at someone, and that guy will go and cry somewhere. It's
No, and I'm sure there are so many such moments, right? That are locked in the memory box for you.
Yeah. He was just screaming at that guy with that gem, like his name's Harsha. And Harsha was just totally trying to act as if he couldn't hear. He's like, so what do I do? Is it orange? Anyway, yeah, it's one of
You know, I like the fact that you touched upon how even before we watched the teaser and the poster dropped in, Deepika looks like Zendaya, oh it's Dune, oh it's Star Wars, it's this, it's that. When I watched the film, it's great that perhaps there are comparisons being drawn to films and names where people have put in so much sweat, blood and toil, and we've all enjoyed and watched that.
Yeah.
When you were writing this on paper, when that germ of the film came to you, and I'm sure you watched a lot of films, right? All your childhood, teenagers growing up. Did you consciously, subconsciously also want to get into that verse, that multi-universe, that just space where there's so much of liberty and freedom, like a George Lucas space or like a Peter Jackson space where there are no boundaries, right?
The boundaries that the story creates, I guess. I mean, I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan, I'm a huge Star Wars fan, even Harry Potter. Like, I love anything that creates its own universe, its rules, and you invest in this. Because as readers, it just gives you such a catharsis or whatever, like an escape into that world, and it's so valuable. So, I never thought I could write something like that, but the closest I came was to write this, which I could make a film. And I never read Dune till just before the movie came, which I think it's a beautiful piece of work. Star Wars, I'm a huge fan for sure, so there'd always be some subconscious referencing that I would have probably done, but Star Wars definitely was a huge influence, I think, yeah.
You know that photo you put up of Prabhas sitting on that chair with his legs, just like in a very casual avatar, while perhaps chaos is happening around him on set, and that caption that you put for him was literally felt like a very heartfelt moment for you to let everybody know. Talk to me a bit about his dedication, his discipline, and the fact that he literally became the character, and to take on something like this, the mounting, the scale of it all.
I think he was like a strong pillar of support for all of us, because we knew of the star power that he had, and even beyond that star or box office power, he'd be the most encouraging or like the most cheerleader sort of guy in the room. He'd be like, no, you don't understand what you're doing, this is amazing, this movie's going to be like something else never seen before. And you know, sometimes you're like little, it feels a bit awkward when somebody really praises you, what you're doing so much, so you're not sure if he's just trying to pep you up. But he really has a vision also. He really has a vision and one sort of understanding, because he's done so many kinds of movies. He's seen ups and downs. He's seen so much going on. So I think he has that judgment, and yeah, he was definitely there for us in a lot of times where we needed some pep.
You know, I quickly want to check with you, apart from the fact that you gave us visuals for years and ages, how did you manage to do this coup of getting so many cameos together? I think you pulled off the most unexpected and impossible task. For the fact that they, and all of them felt like they were having a ball, every one of them.
I'm glad. I mean, I think it's awesome that I managed to give RGV sir his acting debut. I think that's something that I can take to my grave. It's awesome. Something for a first time that he did. So, I mean, I think for as far as Rajamouli sir and RGV are concerned, it's just purely tributes, because I feel they're legends in the film industry, and they've changed the way the industry goes. And Dulquer and Vijay are classic actors. Whether it's a cameo or not, that role would have required a good actor, and I'm glad they chose to do it. Same with Mrinal. I think Mrinal's an amazing actress, so I'm glad she agreed to do this. Yeah.
You know, also the fact that the film is doing well at the box office, it's such an important thing for people to come to theaters and watch it, and then discuss it and then rewatch it also. How, just somebody who's a creative person yet has the baggage of making sure that the film makes enough money so that you are also able to then deliver the second film or third film or whatever trilogy you have in mind, or maybe an entire multi-universe. What is your take on that, the pressure and the focus and the limelight on box office numbers and the chat around it?
I mean, the box office numbers are very important till we make our money back. And then after that, it's fine, it's all good. I think for us, the most important thing is that we invested so much of our time and money and effort into making this, and we have to make sure that not just for us, obviously the production needs to make the money back, but also for a younger generation of filmmakers or aspiring writers or actors or whatever, like our actors who enable films like these, for them to, you know, get that trust that this genre works, or to get that trust that it's okay to take a leap of faith. It's so important for all of that to happen that this film works. So yeah, there were so many things riding on this rather than just us.
Absolutely. My final question is, what do you make of all these theories about part 2? When is part 2 happening? I mean, there are different reports online of you started shooting, you're about to shoot. What's the status on part 2?
We shot a little bit while we were doing our regular schedule, like 20 days or something. Not much, but we have a long way to go still. Yeah.